Press. Mr. Carney, your platform hasn't said anything about LGBTQ Canadians. We're here in Alberta where the province wants to restrict healthcare for transgender people, and they want the Canada Health Act to defend their access to gender affirming care. Would you do that? And what is your party going to do about the backsliding that we're seeing for gender and sexual minorities?
Thank you for the question, Dylan. Let me start at a fundamental point, which is, our Canada is a mosaic. We are all Canadians, but we all have different identities and distinctions. And one of the great strengths of this country is recognizing that people can be who they are, they can love who they love, they can live where they want to live. And it's fundamentally important that the federal government is the defender of those rights, defender of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And access to healthcare in Canada is not a business, it is a fundamental right, and we will defend it. For all Canadians without exception.
So I've wanted to make a video for a while about what it's like to grow up as a wedge issue. I think I even wrote part of a script but never finished it. It's worth noting that transgender people are largely not being used as a wedge issue this election season, and I'm happy for that. Though I'm not entirely happy with the reason. See, in recent memory, trans people in Canada have been used as a cheap get-out-the-vote tool by regional politicians who know that a significant number of people in their base are socially regressive. So don't think for a second that Pierre or the federal Conservatives support anyone's right to be honest about who they know themselves to be. The reason he's not doing that is because he already knows that he has the votes of anyone who holds hatred in their heart for queer people. Aside from PPC voters, I guess. Those people are already going to come out to vote for him in droves. The reason they're not claiming that the Liberals or the NDP are going to force your kids to use a litter box is because the Republicans in the US have been banging the distraction gong about trans people for a good long while, and right now, the American playbook is not working so well in Canada. John Oliver recently did an excellent episode on his show that talked about how conservatives started out using bathroom bans and stuff like that against trans people, but eventually they realized that was a really shitty approach because people don't love thinking about what people do in bathrooms. Eventually, they pivoted towards targeting trans athletes, specifically trans girl athletes, despite the fact that most trans girl athletes aren't that good at sports. Like, there's a few who are very good, but there's a whole lot more cisgender girls who are really good at sports. And no athlete who cares enough about being the best at their sport is going to decide, hey, I'm going to take a bunch of hormones that are going to do all kinds of stuff to my body so that for a year or two, theoretically, maybe I can have an easier advantage against girls. Like, nobody cares about a high school medal that much. Like, it's just such a weird thought. They could have pointed out how pathetic it was that conservatives were using children as political talking points to hide from how terrible their economic policies would be for the country. But in general, they didn't. Now, hashtag not all Dems, but for the most part, they were happy to present themselves as nice people who didn't pick on trans people or really think about their lives and the difficulties that they may run into while trying to fit into a society that so often organizes itself around a cisgender heterosexist binary. They knew that at the end of the day, voters didn't want to think too much about how the norms that the majority are comfortable with can negatively affect those who are not the majority. Unless that minority is the rich. If you are rich as hell, then you get a hotline to the governor or whatever. Carney isn't trying to court the queer vote. And as a gay person, I love that. I have heard so many right-wingers say over and over and over, why do we have to talk about this? I don't care who anyone sleeps with. Fun fact, statistically, you might not, but most of you are fibbing hardcore when you say stuff like that. I've had comedy friends, church friends, Bible college friends, work friends, supervisors, all think that they're being really clever when they coyly ask me which bunk I prefer, or if I am a pitcher or a catcher. They get very confused when you tell them that realistically you spend a lot of your time in the outfield looking at wildflowers. And yes, I am very aware that some of you probably feel deeply cheated by that answer. Sorry, not sorry. Growing up, I was terrified for anyone to find out that I wasn't straight. I used to sob myself to sleep at night. I had a journal for a bit, but one day my mother decided to clean my bedroom, which was not a regular occurrence. And I was so terrified that she might find that journal hidden under my mattress. So I was like, here, let me help you pull the sheets off the bed. And I grabbed the sheets and I picked the journal up while I was there, stuffed it in the blanket, and then on my way to the laundry room, threw it in a trash can while having a panic attack. Because while I was growing up, people wanted my mother's vote. So politicians made ads talking about how terrible it would be for Glenn Murray to become the mayor of Winnipeg. I didn't even know what a gay person was before I knew that they were evil and would destroy the city if they were mayor. Conservatives talk like if kids are exposed to examples of happy gay people, they will turn them gay. But it's not like that. I was gay before I ever saw a positive depiction of a gay person in media. When I was a kid, I had very strong crushes on boys. I just really wanted to be good friends with them because I didn't know that a boy could feel that way for another boy. And when I was friends with a girl, adults would talk as if I had some crush on her and we were going to get married. And it was very confusing because I would much rather hang out with Adam. Everyone kept talking to me like I ought to have feelings that I didn't. And they kept acting like I didn't have feelings that I did. But somehow I knew I wasn't supposed to let on that I wasn't who they expected me to be. Because when you're a kid, you're constantly getting assessed, always tested. And I desperately did not want to fail because I knew there be dragons. I didn't know who I was growing up. I didn't know what I was. But over and over, I got the message from all around me that lying was a sin, but if I ever told the truth, I would be mercilessly punished. I know some politicians feel a need to announce their pronouns, even when it's pretty obvious. I know some feel a need to single out as many groups that they could hold a prejudice against, but don't. But really, as much as possible, the less that the Liberals and the NDP talk about queer people during this campaign, the happier I am. These days, there's a lot of books, TV shows, influencers, pop stars. If kids have parents who love them more than they love their politicians, their parents will make sure to let them know that it is safe to be honest. And to be clear, I'm not saying that my parents didn't love me. They might not have been perfect, but one of the first things that my dad did after I'd told my mom, and she did take it badly, was driving out to see me, taking me out for lunch, and telling me that he didn't understand anything that I was going through, but he just wanted me to be happy. That was all that mattered to him. He didn't understand it, but nothing was going to make him stop loving me. And to be clear, when any politician wants to outlaw teachers educating kids about different orientations or gender identities, it's not about ensuring the kids don't learn what that is. Because if their parents support that politician, they're going to hear about it a lot. It's about ensuring that they learn to hate themselves over and over, so that if someone ever tells them that they could be happy, they won't believe it. Anti-queer politics and rhetoric aren't about preventing kids from being queer. They're about ensuring that they don't live long enough to vote.